What's up, everyone? Welcome to Breaking Tables. I'm your host, Alex, and today we've got a big show. We'll be talking about a possible position change from a star player on the defensive side of the ball for Buffalo and potentially bringing back a former first-round pick from 2018 after the player's been given permission to seek a trade. But first, I want to cover some news that broke last night and today. Sam Franklin, the safety, re-signed by the Bills for a $7.5 million deal over 3 years. $5 million consisting over the first 2 years, meaning there's probably an out in that final year. Brandon Beane typically likes to do that, which I'm all for. I really like Sam Franklin. He brought a lot to that special teams unit, 13 tackles in 2025. My one worry is that maybe it makes it harder to bring back Reggie Gilliam. Maybe. You don't want to invest too much money into special teamers, but at the same time, he also offers a lot on offense, so maybe it doesn't really affect Reggie Gilliam. Maybe I'm just being a little paranoid, but overall, I really like the signing of Sam Franklin. It's a pretty good deal too. Really, it's 2.5 per year, and then you have that third year as kind of an out. I doubt they keep him for all 3 years, but even if they do, pretty good price. I like to see it. Next up, Trace McSorley, throw it on a dime like I ain't even trying. Former quarterback, hired to the Bills under this new Joe Brady regime as an offensive assistant. I don't know too much about what Trace McSorley has to offer as a coach, but I like it. I like bringing in former players, and Trace McSorley is pretty dynamic. He loved to run. He loved to throw the ball on the run and improvise. So that kind of fits Josh Allen's way of playing. I like it personally. It's kind of fun too. I saw some edits yesterday of Trace McSorley's highlights in that awesome song. So I'm a fan of it. Lastly, though, before we get into the big chunk of the episode, George Pickens has been franchise tagged by the Dallas Cowboys a little north of $27 million. I believe it's 27.2, fully guaranteed. And I love it. I love it for Dallas. That's kind of a snag if you ask me too. If he hit the open market, that's probably 30 to 35 million, maybe even more. So I really like the deal. It gives Dallas one more year or maybe just a couple months to renegotiate a long-term deal. But even if they don't want to do that, you can keep him for one more year before you let him go and he signs a mega deal with another team. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, I want to talk about how Taron Johnson could be moving to safety. And Brandon Beane spoke at the Combine earlier in the week about how he's open to a possible position change for Taron Johnson. Obviously, he's insinuating that that move would be to safety. And the only reason why that would happen is because Sean McDermott is out of Buffalo. And you have Jim Leonard step up as the DC, newly hired, and he likes to run this 3-4 alignment defense as opposed to a base nickel or 4-3 alignment defense under Sean McDermott. And, it makes sense from the surface level. Taron Johnson might lose that kind of role that he's had all these years. And he's had a 70% snap share since 2020 in the Buffalo Bills defense. A crucial player, basically a third linebacker at most times, playing in the box, always willing to stop the run and bring the physicality. And he's a key reason why Buffalo has been such a good pass defense, because instead of substituting a third linebacker in there to stop the run, they throw in Taron Johnson. That way their defense isn't as slow and they can cover the pass. But Taron Johnson has never played safety in the NFL. Never. And people might just say, oh, it's the secondary. You can switch people around however you want. You can't do that. Nickel corner and safety are so different, especially nowadays. Safeties are asked to do pretty much anything. Play in the deep third, play in the box, center field, wherever. And Taron Johnson has been playing kind of one role with the Bills. It's a very crucial role. It's an unorthodox role, but it's been the same role. He plays in the slot and sometimes he plays in the box as almost that third linebacker, as I mentioned earlier. He has never been that guy to succeed in coverage as the routes progressed. He gets grabby, he gets handsy, and he's not as agile and fast, at least as he used to be. We got to remember, he's 29 years old. We're expecting him to make a full position change. I don't think that's right, and I think we're asking too much of a player who's put his body on the line so much, and we see it breaking down. So if your concern is regarding whether or not Taron Johnson will be able to maintain his snap share and his role in the 2026 season, I don't think that's the right way to look at things. Obviously, he's going to have a smaller role, and that's expected, and that's probably optimal for everyone. He's getting older. That wear and tear is starting to show, similar to a guy like Jordan Poyer playing all over the place, using his body, being very physical. You're going to suffer injuries, and your athleticism is going to pay the price. However, as long as you plan behind him, you have a linebacker that you trust to step in, like a Shaq Thompson this year, and a slot corner that you trust to step in, like Cam Lewis this past year. I think Jordan Hancock can really be that guy if they don't use him for safety. As long as you have guys behind him, you can really use Taron Johnson like he was used these past years for the Bills, but in a smaller role. That way you can really prioritize his health and his athleticism, and you don't let things get carried away. The next thing I wanted to get to is that people are overreacting a little bit and not necessarily understanding what this 3-4 defense means under Jim Leonard compared to maybe Sean McDermott's base nickel or 4-3 alignment defense. Jim Leonard was the defensive pass game coordinator for the Denver Broncos, the pass game coordinator. That means he definitely had a hand in how the defensive backs played and how often they were on the field. Obviously, he didn't control everything. He wasn't the defensive coordinator, but you can expect him to have some sort of influence. And Denver played the nickel 59% of the time. Obviously, that's not comparable to Sean McDermott's base nickel defense, but 59% of the time is still quite a bit. Denver was overloaded in defensive backs, specifically their corners. You had Surtain, Riley Moss, a decent duo. Surtain, one of the best in the league. Those guys are on the outside. Then you had Jaquan McMillan on the inside. He just got tendered today, actually. $5.9 million, a second round tender. He's back in Denver. He was their slot guy. And then you had Jedi Barron, the first round pick, didn't play much, but a good depth piece to come in and play when needed. And what I'm getting at with all of this is that just because the 3-4 alignment will take place, just because Greg Rousseau is not going to have his hands in the dirt all the time, doesn't mean that there's going to be 4 linebackers on the field. What happens when there's 3 wideouts on the field? You're going to have to bring on that slot corner. People don't really understand this. It's a lot of casual talk I'm hearing about this Taron Johnson move to safety. He can't play safety. One, safety is so much different. You're lining up 10 to 15 yards behind where Taron Johnson would have lined up. And you're chasing down some of the fastest players in the league. You're asking him to go do that when he can't really cover any wide receiver going 20, 25 yards deep? Taron Johnson's skill is playing at the line of scrimmage. He's extremely physical, got a lot of burst, and he's very smart. Great run defender and great within that 5 to 15 yard area on the field. You're not asking him to go cover Tyreek Hill in the deep third and cover 3. That doesn't make sense. And again, Denver ran nickel 59% of the time. You can expect some of that to carry on into Buffalo, especially with how strong Buffalo's secondary is. You have Benford, you have Hairston, arguably a better duo than Surtain and Riley Moss. You have Taron Johnson, you have Jordan Hancock, you have Cole Bishop, and this excludes free agency and the draft. In my opinion, I think Taron Johnson, if he is on the Bills after June 1st, he is going to remain a nickel corner. And why I say June 1st is because the Bills save a lot of money if they release him after June 1st. They release $8.67 million as opposed to the $1.9 if they were to release him before June. Now that's a big difference. That means you're not releasing Taron Johnson before June. So you can write that off. And I kind of already discussed how safety doesn't really work for Taron Johnson, at least not the traditional safety role. Maybe he's listed as a safety like a guy like Cam Lewis, but he's really playing that slot and nickel role. Maybe the star role, maybe that. Now, in my opinion, I think Brandon Beane could be tactically throwing some smoke in the air. By saying Taron Johnson could be in for the safety role in 2026, that would write off Buffalo's chances of going after a safety in the early rounds. And we've seen the safeties boom lately. Nick Emanwori and Cole Bishop, just to name a few. So, if the Bills are looking for a safety in those early rounds, that's exactly what you want to do, is say that you're not looking for one and that you're moving your nickel corner to safety. Now, I might be grasping at strings here, similar to you guys saying that Taron Johnson's going to move to safety. but it's always a possibility. Smoke screens always happen, especially this time of year, and especially when your GM's in Indianapolis for the combine. Next, this rumor could just be circulating because it is that time in the offseason, kind of right before all the combine drills started, right before any buzz, any real news broke. Fans are grasping at strings. They want their team to trade for anyone, to sign all these guys. They are just in love with the endless possibilities. And another endless possibility is, Taron Johnson moved to safety. Let's talk about it. I really don't think Taron Johnson is cut out for safety, and I think that Brandon Beane knows that. So if he is on the Bills post June 1st, it is as a nickel corner. Now, I'm very open to the possible release post June 1st, but that's a completely different conversation. That doesn't involve him moving to safety. And now, the second big rumor in this video that I'll be breaking down is the possibility of Tremaine Edmunds coming back to Buffalo. The former first-round pick, the Bills moved from 22 to 16 after moving up for Allen as well. They picked Tremaine Edmunds. He was drafted at 19, later turned 20, one of the youngest NFL players ever drafted, and he was huge coming out the draft. There was so much hype. 6'4", 250, 34-inch arms, and a 4.54 40. I mean, what's not to be excited about? A physical specimen. Everyone was so excited, and he brought it to the first season with the Bills. 121 total tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions. That's exactly what you want. Like, those are elite stats. But that was his best season, at least statistically, for the Bills. A little concerning, and it makes sense why they let him go after his 5th-year option. Now, you would think a guy like Tremaine Edmunds, so big, so fast, so strong, would be able to really tap into his body and his frame, but he never got to. I think that things never really clicked for him over in Buffalo, and things got a lot better when he got to Chicago. He signed that mega deal, 4 years, $72 million. Buffalo couldn't have paid that even if they wanted to, so it makes a lot of sense why they let him go. Now, to entertain the conversation of Tremaine Edmunds possibly coming back to Buffalo through a trade, I just want to talk about this one game. In 2021, the Buffalo Bills took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa, and they were down 24-3 entering the second half. But Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills rallied back and they tied it up leading into overtime, 27-27. Now, the offense got stopped in overtime, giving the ball to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. The Bills' defense held strong, first and second down, inside Tampa's 20. But 3rd and 1, Tremaine Edmunds meets Leonard Fournette in the backfield, 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Right in his face, ready to wrap him up and stop him, ready to get Buffalo the ball back. But Leonard Fournette shrugs him off. No issue. It looked effortless and gets the first down, leading to a Tampa Bay win. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, it's the perfect indicator of who Tremaine Edmunds was with Buffalo. I'm not saying he didn't get better in Chicago. He certainly did. But it's definitely worth remembering who Tremaine Edmunds was in Buffalo. He was very passive. He wasn't willing to lower the shoulder all the time like someone like Matt Milano is. And Matt Milano definitely pays the price with some injuries, but I would much rather my linebacker be aggressive like Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, Dorian Williams, or even Shaq Thompson. Those guys bring in the hits. They're very physical, and they're in the box to stop the run. Whereas Tremaine Edmunds was never really that guy for Buffalo. So when you're talking about bringing him back to a team who has Terrell Bernard, who hopefully is healthy for 2026, Dorian Williams, who's in for a huge role. He had a great year in 2024. He sat behind Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano, and Shaq Thompson this past season, so it makes sense he didn't produce. But I'm really excited to see Dorian Williams. And you could bring back Shaq Thompson, as we discussed 2 videos ago in my defensive free agent video. So make sure you guys tune into that if you haven't already. So when you look at all the guys Buffalo already has, and if they do bring back Shaq Thompson, what's the point in bringing in Tremaine Edmunds? He's a great player, but what's the point? You're going to have to pay the price of his contract and give away draft capital. I don't think it'll be that expensive, especially since he's making so much. It'll probably be a 4th max. But what's the point? You have Terrell Bernard, you have Dorian Williams, you have Shaq Thompson if you bring him back. There are a lot of players that can play that role. Tremaine Edmunds coming back to Buffalo doesn't give you anything new. It doesn't give you anything you didn't have before. So with that being said, I am not a fan of this Tremaine Edmunds trade speculation. I think he can do wonders for other teams in the league, but Buffalo needs to look elsewhere. Buffalo need to look at edge rushers, a safety, and wide receiver before they ever entertain trading for a linebacker like Tremaine Edmunds. But with that being said, I am a huge advocate for bringing back Shaq Thompson. And if the Bills don't bring him back, then there is a conversation to be had about possibly bringing in another high-tier linebacker because Terrell Bernard's health these past couple seasons has been inconsistent to say the least. And that brings to the end of this video. We covered Taron Johnson's possible position change, Tremaine Edmunds' trade rumors after being permission to seek a trade by the Bears, and the news of Sam Franklin re-signing with the Buffalo Bills to a 3-year, $7.5 million contract, George Pickens getting franchise tagged, and Trace McSorley joining the Buffalo Bills not as a player, but as a coach, as an assistant coach to Joe Brady. And lastly, I just want to mention the NFL salary cap has increased $22 million from last year, now at $301.2 million. A lot of financial freedom for all 32 teams in the NFL. This free agency is going to be so much fun, and I can't wait to cover it for you guys. Make sure you guys give this video a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys soon. Go Bills.